So think about this garden, sort of tucked away just north of Calcutta back in the late 1800s. Cossipore Garden. Seems like just a normal spot, 5 acres. But it became, well, the backdrop for the very last chapter of Sri Ramakrishna's life.
Yeah, it's where his earthly journey actually ended.
Exactly. And, by really diving into this period, these last 8 months he was at Cossipore, I think that's how we can really grasp the culmination of his influence.
And see that transition, that passing of the torch, spiritually speaking, to his disciples.
Right. We've been looking at this detailed biography, and it's packed with intimate details from those final months.
It really is.
So our goal today is to really get into what happened at Cossipore, the key events, the teachings that sort of solidify then, and the impact it all had, especially, getting his followers ready.
For what came next.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start by painting a picture. This Cossipore garden, it wasn't just like any old place, was it?
No, far from it. The source describes it beautifully, actually. It was full of nature fruit trees, flowering plants, very vibrant.
Some lovely.
Yeah. And the main building, 2 stories, the setup was quite specific. Sri Ramakrishna had the central hall upstairs.
Yeah.
His attendants were nearby. And the Holy Mother, Sarada Devi, she had a room downstairs.
Right.
And the other disciples were sort of spread around in other rooms, outbuildings. There were ponds, paths.
So quite a compound.
Definitely. And interestingly, the biography notes that both Sri Ramakrishna and the Holy Mother felt, well, more comfortable there, more at peace somehow.
That sense of peace, even with everything else going on, that feels significant.
It does.
And speaking of challenges, moving there brought up practical stuff, right?
Yeah.
Especially the caregiving. Narendra, who we know as Swami Vivekananda, his role became massive.
Oh, absolutely pivotal. Narendra, he grasped the situation very quickly. Cossipore was too far for the young devotees to go back and forth every day.
Right, for meals and things.
Exactly. So they basically had to live there full time.
Which brings up money, of course.
It did. But beyond that, Narendra felt this huge personal responsibility to nurse Sri Ramakrishna.
Especially since he was studying for law exams, wasn't he?
Okay.
And had family duties.
He was preparing for his BL exams, yeah, and still had obligations in Calcutta. It just shows his incredible commitment.
Really did.
He basically decided, okay, I'll juggle the studies, but I'll spend all my free time here at the garden, serving.
Right.
He'd apparently planned to, support his family first and then renounce, but, well, destiny had other plans, it seems, more immediate ones.
And the money side.
Yeah.
Keeping the garden going, ensuring the best care.
Right.
How did that work out? Sounds like a group effort.
It really was. While Narendra was handling the hands-on care, the finances were mostly covered by the older householder devotees. They stepped up.
Okay.
Our source highlights Narendra. He made this amazing offer to pay the entire rent for the garden.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Which is interesting because Sri Ramakrishna was initially a bit reluctant about a formal maintenance fund.
Oh, why was that?
He contrasted it with Dak Shingswar, where Rani Rasmani had provided consistent support. It seems he felt awkward about directly asking for money for himself.
I see.
But he did accept the devotees' help in the end. Maybe he saw it as part of their spiritual growth, this selfless giving.
That makes sense. It shows how these communities work, right? Renunciants and householders, both vital.
Exactly. It's a symbiotic relationship.
And it feels like that service itself was part of the training. The daily life there sounds incredibly intense. The young disciples always around him.
Absolutely. The biography paints this picture of just constant, tireless devotion. They were tending to his needs 247.
Wow.
And Narendra, being the natural leader, he guided them. When they weren't directly serving Sri Ramakrishna, he had them meditating, studying scriptures, discussing spiritual ideas, singing devotional songs.
Building that community.
Fostering this incredibly strong bond, a real brotherhood, united in purpose.
And isn't there that story about Latu offering to be his sweeper?
Yes. Such a touching, almost funny moment amidst all the seriousness. Latu's simple, heartfelt devotion, it just shows the depth of their connection to him.
It really does.
And the source stresses Sri Ramakrishna's concern for them. Even while he was suffering, he tried to minimize their difficulties. Real empathy.
Yeah. Now, about his health. There was a slight improvement initially, right? After the move.
A brief one, yes.
Yeah.
But ultimately, his condition worsened. Throat cancer, very painful.
And the biography mentions he made prophecies around this time about his own end.
He did. Quite remarkable, really. He foresaw his own death, predicted that his greatness would eventually be widely recognized.
Right.
He also talked about a sort of sifting of devotees, some staying close, others drifting away, and crucially, the renunciation of Narendra and the other young men.
And these all came true.
According to the source, yes, they did. It adds this layer of profound spiritual insight to everything.
It really does. And that story with Pandit Sasidhar suggesting he could just will himself better.
Ah, yes. That's so revealing.
What was his response again?
Sri Ramakrishna basically said, "My mind has been given to God completely. How can I take it back and focus it on this body?"
Incredible. Just total surrender.
Absolutely. But what's fascinating is that even after he said that, Narendra and the others kept begging him, "Please, ask the Divine Mother to cure you." Out of love and desperation.
Of course. And his conversation with Narendra about that, the idea of eating through so many mouths.
Yes. Such a powerful metaphor. It shows his feeling of oneness, that his needs were met through his devotees' love and care.
He saw their services feeding him, in a way.
Exactly. Complete indifference to his own suffering, but so aware and grateful for their efforts. It's deeply moving.
Then comes January 1st, 1886. A huge day, right? The blessings.
A really pivotal moment. The biography says he was in a noticeably better mood that afternoon, felt stronger.
Okay.
And despite being weak, he went around and actually touched several devotees. Niranjan, Kalipada, a couple of women devotees blessing them.
Wow. And what did he say?
He said things like, his teaching was almost done, and he saw the whole world as the Lord. Really profound statements about his mission culminating.
And then the scene in the garden with the lay disciples.
Yeah, that was extraordinary. He walked out into the garden, saw the lay disciples gathered there, and he just said, "What more shall I say? Be illumined."
Just like that.
Just like that. And then he seemed to enter this semi-conscious state, a kind of spiritual ecstasy.
And the devotees' reactions?
Overwhelming joy. People reported having incredible spiritual experiences, visions, deep bliss. Ramlal, Vaikuntha, they described seeing their chosen ideal, feeling transformed.
Amazing.
Even Haran Chandra Das got a special blessing, Sri Ramakrishna touching his head with his foot. It was clearly a moment of immense spiritual power flowing out.
And didn't Sri Ramakrishna feel something afterward? A burning sensation?
Yes, the biography mentions that. Some interpreted it as him taking on the negative karma, the impurities of those he blessed, a sign of his immense compassion.
Incredible. So while all this is happening around Sri Ramakrishna, Narendra himself is having intense experiences too.
Oh, definitely. Narendra was going through his own deep spiritual yearning. He talked about this powerful sensation in his chest.
Right?
And he was having these very direct talks with Sri Ramakrishna about samadhi, that state of deep absorption.
He wanted that realization.
Desperately. But the source also describes his struggle. This intense spiritual pull versus his worldly duties, the law studies, his family back home.
The conflict must have been immense.
Yeah, he apparently felt dread at just the thought of going back to his books after tasting that spiritual intensity. Sri Ramakrishna was fundamentally changing him.
And when we say samadhi, we mean?
Basically a very high state of meditative consciousness, deep absorption in the divine, transcending the ordinary mind.
Got it. So his whole life was being reshaped, and Sri Ramakrishna knew this, right? He was actively guiding Narendra and the others.
Oh, absolutely. He explicitly told Narendra, look after these boys, guide their spiritual practice. He even urged them not to go back home.
Preparing them for monastic life.
Exactly. And that symbolic act of sending them out to beg for food bhiksha that was straight up training in renunciation, foreshadowing their future.
Even that incident on Shivaratri,
Yeah.
Narendra trying to test his power on a Kali image.
Yes. And Sri Ramakrishna gently reprimanded him. It shows Sri Ramakrishna's concern, right? Don't waste this energy prematurely.
Let it mature for the big work ahead.
Precisely. And also, humility. Don't try to force your experience on others. Kali, by the way, for listeners, is a powerful form of the Divine Mother in Hinduism.
Right, so as his health worsened, his acceptance, his focus on the devotees, that really stands out.
It truly does. He was in immense pain, but reportedly remained cheerful, saying his mind was blissful.
Amazing resilience.
And his vision of seeing God in everything, he used analogies like beings are just skin-covered frames moved by God, or like wax figures, the outer form changes, but the substance, the divine, is the same.
That's very Advaitic, isn't it? Non-dualism.
Very much so. Advaita emphasizes that ultimate oneness. He saw pain as just part of having a body, inherent to form. And he gave Narendra direct instructions on renunciation.
Really cementing those core teachings.
In those final days, yes, very precious time.
And while this intense period is happening at Cossipore, the Holy Mother, Sarada Devi, goes on a pilgrimage.
Yes, she went to Terexwar, hoping to pray for Sri Ramakrishna's recovery.
Did it help?
Well, not in the way she expected. Instead, she had this powerful personal experience, a wave of renunciation washing over her. She understood the impermanence of it all.
Another transformation.
Exactly. She came back with this sense of detachment, almost mirroring Sri Ramakrishna's own state, his acceptance.
It's like everyone in that inner circle was being prepared, even the young disciples going to Bodh Gaya.
Right. Inspired by Buddha, Narendra and a few others went there, seeking deeper understanding. Bodh Gaya, of course, being where Buddha attained enlightenment.
Deepening their own paths.
Yes. And even when one disciple, Kali, had a period of doubt, Sri Ramakrishna handled it with such understanding. It shows these were individual journeys, too, within the group.
And Sasi. His service is highlighted as something truly special.
Oh, Sasi's devotion was legendary, according to the source. Just tireless, selfless service. He saw serving the guru as the highest spiritual practice, bar none.
Dedication personified.
Completely focused solely on alleviating Sri Ramakrishna's suffering, forgetting his own needs. A powerful example.
Then the formal initiation into monasticism happens. The ochre cloths, the rosary.
A massive step. It started with Gopal Sr. wanting to give these symbols of renunciation.
Okay.
And Sri Ramakrishna confirmed it, saying, yes, give them to these boys. They are the true monks. It showed his vision for their future.
Setting out the order, essentially.
Laying the groundwork. And that ceremony, allowing them to accept food from anyone, regardless of caste, that was revolutionary. It established the inclusive principle of the future Ramakrishna order.
Wow. And amidst all this, Narendra has his Nirvikalpa Samadhi experience. You mentioned Samadhi earlier, but Nirvikalpa.
That's considered the highest state. Absolute merging with reality, beyond thought, beyond duality. Utterly profound.
And it just happened, unexpectedly.
Seems so. The biography describes it as sudden. He lost outer consciousness, completely absorbed.
And Sri Ramakrishna's reaction.
He explained that this highest realization would be sort of held in trust, locked away, metaphorically.
Well,
so Narendra could complete his mission in the world first, the Divine Mother's work. Only after that would he regain constant access to that state.
so the power was there, but contained for a purpose.
Exactly. It speaks volumes about the responsibility being placed on him.
And then the formal transmission of power, making them one soul.
Yeah, that's described as incredibly significant, not just personally, but historically.
How so?
The source emphasizes this moment as vital for the whole revival and spread of Vedanta philosophy worldwide.
Yep.
It cemented Narendra as the heir, the one to carry the torch.
Got it. Even in those last days, weakening physically, Sri Ramakrishna's care continued, the interaction with Girish.
Beautiful example. Even in pain, he was concerned about Girish's spiritual progress.
And the philosophical talks continued too, with Hirananda.
Yes, right near the end. Deep discussions about suffering, pantheism, the idea God is in everything, different paths to God. The intellectual and spiritual inquiry never stopped.
Amazing.
And Sri Ramakrishna described his own state, seeing God inside and out, seeing everyone as relatives. He saw suffering as the body's experience, hinting even at taking on others' burdens, vicarious atonement.
Wow, deep stuff right till the end.
Absolutely.
As the end got closer, the devotees must have been, well, grieving but resigned.
Yes, a mix of profound sorrow and acceptance. And then that moment, Sri Ramakrishna initiated Narendra with the Rama mantra.
You mentioned a mantra earlier, a sacred sound. What happened?
The effect was described as miraculous. Narendra went into ecstasy. The other disciples were visibly concerned by the intensity of it all. It showed the immense power still flowing from Sri Ramakrishna. Even then,
and you had devotees like Nag Mahase, incredibly devoted, trying desperately to help, like searching for that out-of-season Amalaka fruit for medicine.
Shows the depth of their love.
It does. And Sri Ramakrishna asking Jogin to read from the almanac.
Right.
It really seems he knew his time was up.
Checking the date.
Seems like it. Preparing himself and them.
Then that final private moment with Narendra. The transmission, leaving himself like a fakir.
Yes, a mendicant with no possessions. He passed everything, his spiritual power, his legacy, entirely to Narendra.
Fully empowering him.
Absolutely, entrusting him with a whole mission, a definitive act.
And even then, Narendra had one last flicker of doubt. testing him.
A fleeting internal test, yes. Asking himself, is he truly God incarnate?
And Sri Ramakrishna knew.
Instantly. He responded immediately, emphatically. He who came as Rama, as Krishna, is now in this body, Ramakrishna.
Oh, direct.
Unequivocal. And Narendra felt deep remorse for even that momentary doubt. It cemented his faith absolutely. So then we reach the Mahasamadhi, the final departure. August 15th or 16th, 1886. Mahasamadhi meaning
The conscious leaving of the body by a realized soul.
the description is so moving.
It is. The biography details the increasing suffering, the devotees' immense grief, but also those final moments.
He had some relief towards the end.
A brief period after midnight, yes. He even took a little porridge. Then he uttered Kali 3 times.
The Divine Mother's name.
Yes, and then lay down peacefully. The stillness came just after 1 a.m., 2 minutes past 1, August 16th.
The end of his physical life.
Yes, the devotees, Sasi especially, were heartbroken. Girshan Ram arrived, doctors came, Colonel Upadhyaya, Dr. Sarkar to confirm his passing. The news spread fast.
Must have been devastating for them.
Immense loss, but also something else.
What do you mean?
Even in the grief, preparing for the funeral, addressing the body, taking that final photograph, the procession to the Bharanagore burning ghat with chanting and music. As they returned to Cossipore with the sacred relics, the ashes, there was sorrow, of course, but also this dawning realization of his eternal presence, that he wasn't truly gone.
The spirit lives on.
Exactly. They returned shouting victory to Bhagavan Ramakrishna, understanding that his mission, his presence, would continue through them.
So looking back at Cossipore, these final months, what are the big takeaways?
Well, definitely the intense spiritual training, that forging of the disciples into a cohesive group under Narendra, the sheer depth of devotion from everyone,
Right.
that critical transmission of spiritual power, ensuring the teachings would continue, and just the profound, peaceful end to such an extraordinary life.
It all feels so connected, doesn't it? The suffering, the teaching, the blessings, the relationship.
Absolutely, all woven together, shaping this spiritual lineage that would, have such a massive impact on the world.
It really gives you a lot to think about. How does this story, Sri Ramakrishna's final days, the disciples' devotion, how does it resonate with you, listening? What does make you think about spiritual leadership, human connection, especially facing that ultimate transition?
What parts of this deep dive, make you want to reflect more or maybe explore further on your own?
I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.